You hear a lot of people talk about core values and clarity, alignment, things like prioritizing what's important to you or understanding what these stand for. And if you're someone who is struggling with this yourself, if you're struggling to find your core values or you feel like you should know what they are, but you don't, that's what I want to talk about today. Because 10 years ago, that was me. I had no idea what my core values were. I struggled to figure out what I stood for. And so I have 10 years of experience now of understanding how to do this the right way and to do it in a way that's intentional and in a way that is lasting and brings us clarity, right? And so, like I said, 10 years ago, I had no idea what I was doing. And that was mainly because I didn't really know how to clearly define what was important to me or what those values were. Like I kind of knew what mattered in my life or what was important to me. I kind of understood what my values were or what I stood for, but nothing was completely clear. I didn't have clarity. It wasn't solid. And so by default, I just simply did what everyone else was doing. And, about 7 years ago now, I wrote a poem titled Black Boy. And this poem was like a letter to myself saying, hey, it's time to shed your skin, as in let go of these old habits. It's time to spread your wings, to think for yourself, to swim against the current. It's time to figure this out, to figure out what you stand for. And so in that poem, I wrote a line that said something along the lines of, a black boy who led by following from behind. And this is where I think a lot of us struggle with this idea of figuring out what we stand for or what our core values are. It's because we're not entirely thinking for ourselves. We're just following what everyone else is doing. We're prioritizing what we're told to prioritize, what society tells us is most important. And we're not pushing against the current. We're not pushing against the grain. Like I said, we're not entirely thinking for ourselves. And in a way, just following along with what everyone else is doing, it makes it easier to fit in, right? It's an easier path to travel. And so like I said, I want to talk about that today. I want to unpack this and help you figure out what your core values are and fully understand what you stand for. Now, I do have a core values worksheet that has helped thousands of people find their values and understand what they stand for. And it's free to download, and I encourage you to grab a copy.
However, there is a common problem that most people run into when they use worksheets to help them find their values. And this problem creates unnecessary hesitation around this process. It creates feelings of stuckness and unsureness, and I want to help you avoid this as much as I can. And so let's talk about why this happens first, and then we can dive into how to do this the right way, how to be intentional with choosing your core values later. All right. The biggest misconception that I see so many people falling for and so many people clinging to is thinking that your values are just something you select from a list. And so what most people do and what you're likely doing is you're taking this selecting items on a menu approach or perspective to finding your values. And here's what that looks like. Honesty and purpose, those sound really good. So I'll take that. And you know what? Financial freedom and traveling, I like the way that sounds. I'll have that on the side, please. And for my drink, I'll take happiness. That sounds good. Yeah, I'll take happiness for my drink. You see, when you have this selecting items on a menu approach, when you have this perspective on finding your values, it creates the big problem. And the problem it creates is this perfectionistic approach, right? And so you're trying to select the perfect list of values that represent what you think you stand for, represent what is important to you in your life. And you feel like whatever you select on this menu has to be the perfect selection and you have to get it right the first time. And you can't mess up, because if you mess up, that's going to create unnecessary stress and it's going to feel off and you're going to feel like you're making a mistake. And that's where a lot of people get stuck. That's where you're likely getting stuck. You're trying to take this menu selecting approach to finding your values, and it makes you think that it has to be the perfect selection and you have to get it right the first time. And so now you're struggling. You're not sure what to do. You're stuck. You're unsure, right? And so instead of choosing your values, instead of taking this menu approach to choosing your values, the truth is your values are discovered. They're defined because your values are already in you. Deep down, you already know what's important to you. Deep down, you already know what you stand for. Deep down, you know what your values are. You've just been too busy and overwhelmed with life to really step back and think clearly about it. You've been too busy with other activities and other responsibilities to really say, you know what? Let me think intentionally about this. Let me think through this. Let me take a more purposeful approach to defining or discovering what my values are. And that's what I want to help you with. Like I said, 10 years ago, I had no idea what my values are. I had no idea what I stood for. I was guessing. I was following what everyone else was doing. But I have 10 years of experience now of understanding how to do this the right way and to do it in a way that is intentional, that is purposeful, and that aligns with what actually is important to me and what is going to be important to you. All right. And to do that, there are 3 parts or 3 steps to this process. And we're going to walk through all 3 of them individually and with clarity. But there are 3 steps to this process. Now, if you do all 3 of these steps, you will come out on the other side with clarity, with a firm understanding of what your values are and what you stand for, which makes a huge, huge difference in your life, in how you live life and how you approach decision making and everything. So let's unpack these 3 pieces, these 3 steps. The first one is to reflect on lived experiences. And when I say lived experiences, I'm not just talking about any lived experience, right? I'm specifically talking about emotionally charged moments. And so what most people miss, and what I've learned over the years, is that our values show up strongest in emotionally charged moments. And so what I want you to do is I want you to think back to moments when you felt deeply proud or angry or alive. What was being honored in those moments, or what was being violated in those moments, right? And so I have some questions that I'm going to throw out there to you, and I want you to spend some time reflecting on these questions. Maybe spend some time journaling these questions, writing down your response, but just think through some of these moments for yourself, these emotionally charged moments for yourself.
Reflective questions. When were you proud of how you showed up? When were you angry at how someone treated you? When did you feel like, you know what, this is who I am? When do you feel most like yourself? Who are you with? Who are you surrounded by? Who are you not surrounded by? What are you doing? Where are you? Think through all of those details. Think through those lived experiences, those emotionally charged moments where you felt deeply proud, where you felt angry, where you felt alive, like you were truly yourself in that moment. Who were you surrounded with? Where were you? What were you doing? Write down those details. Example, my core value of integrity. One of my core values is the word integrity. And there are different lived experiences over the years that point to why I chose the word integrity to represent one of my core values. And I want to share one of those lived experiences with you now. Something about me is it deeply, deeply bothers me. It gets under my skin. It really upsets me when someone questions my character without truly knowing who I am or without understanding the full context behind a situation or a lived experience. And so when someone questions my character, and this has happened a handful of times in my life over the last 10 years, like I said, it really upsets me. It really gets under my skin. And so for me, that lived experience pointed to the core value of integrity. And so I know for myself that if every action I take, if every decision I make, if everything I do in my life aligns with integrity, meaning I'm true to myself in light and in dark, I'm the same person no matter who I'm around, if I honor integrity in my life, then anytime someone tries to question my character, they will have no foundational evidence to back up that claim because everything I'm doing in my life is aligned with integrity. Like I said, there are other lived experiences that also point to why integrity is one of my core values, but this is an example. Another example, creativity and family. A moment where I feel most alive, most like myself, is 2 things. Number 1 is when I'm creating. I'm a creative, so when I'm writing poetry, when I'm creating art, when I'm speaking, when I'm sharing lived experiences and knowledge, when I'm teaching, when I'm doing things like this, I feel most like myself. But also, I feel most like myself when I'm spending quality time with my wife, my family, or other people in my circle.
and I'm cracking jokes, and we can have that deep laugh together. And I'm not just talking about that random, ha ha ha, that was funny, but that deep belly laugh, the type of laugh when you start crying and your cheeks hurt because you're smiling so much. You have to take a deep breath and everyone has to calm down and you start sweating. Just that deep laughter in the moment where you can crack jokes, just be yourself, have fun. My wife and I have moments like that all the time. And so in moments like that, I feel most alive. I feel most like myself. And so those lived experiences point to creativity and family, which are two more of my core values. So like I said, I want you to reflect on your lived experiences, but not any lived experience. Those emotionally charged moments. Think back on those moments when you feel deeply proud, angry, or alive. What was being honored, or what was being violated?
Part 2. Recognize the patterns. The second piece in this puzzle is to recognize the patterns, and then it's also about asking questions. So let's talk about the former first. 1. Recognizing patterns. When you think back on those lived experiences, you're going to start to notice different patterns. So maybe you always feel most alive when this happens. You tend to get angry or irritated when that happens. Or whenever you're around these people, this situation tends to occur over and over again that creates this emotion in you. And you don't really like that. Think about those patterns. Recognize those patterns. Just jot those things down, right? That's pretty self-explanatory. 2. Asking simple questions. The second piece is about asking simple questions. When I say asking simple questions, the purpose of asking these is to transition your mindset away from reflecting on the past and toward thinking about the present. Here are some of the questions I want you to ask yourself. What do I want to be known for in this current season of your life? What qualities do I admire? What type of life do I want to create for myself? So think about the present moment. Think about the current season of your life, your current situation, your present lived experiences. What do you want to be known for? What type of life do you want to create for yourself? What qualities do you admire? Is it kindness? Is it calmness? Is it creativity? Is it integrity? What are those qualities? What do you want to be known for? What type of life do you want to create for yourself? Like I said, asking questions like this shifts your mindset away from reflecting on the past, on lived experiences, and toward thinking about the present, the current season of your life. So the combination of the two, reflecting on lived experiences and recognizing those patterns, and then asking simple questions to bring you to the present moment, this combination is going to bring you so much clarity. If you don't do anything else I talk about in this video, if you do these two things, I promise you will come out on the other side with so much clarity and an understanding of what your values are and what you stand for. So let's keep going. The third piece in this is to then borrow from your future self, all right? So what I want you to do is I want you to picture yourself 5 years from now. What would make you proud? 5 years from now, you're living in alignment with your values. What makes you feel the most proud in that moment? What brings you fulfillment? What brings you peace in your life? What are you doing? Who are you with? What decisions did you make to get you there? What decisions did you stop making out of fear? Think about yourself 5 years from now, what that looks like, and then borrow things from that moment. Write it down, right? Again, spend some time journaling on this, but write down where you are 5 years from now, what's bringing you fulfillment, what are you honoring, what brings you joy, what are you most proud of, who are you with? Write down some of those things. Maybe spend 10 minutes or so just brain dumping moments from your future self. Borrowing moments from your future self.
So to recap, 1, you're going to reflect on lived experiences. 2, you're going to recognize patterns and also start asking simple questions about the present moment. 3, you're going to borrow from your future self. Okay, so think about 5 years from now. What am I doing? Who am I with? What's bringing me fulfillment? What am I most proud of? Write down some of those things. And now, after you do all three of those things, then and only then should you start looking at a list of words and writing down what your values are. And I call this kind of translating those feelings, those frustrations, those lived experiences, translating all of this data you've collected into clearly named values. And like I said, now's the time to look at a list, to look at that menu and select the words that most accurately represent the things that are important to you, the things that you stand for, the things that align with the type of life you want to create for yourself. Now, a common question I'm often asked, and one that you're probably asking right now, is, okay, well, how many core values should I have? And the answer to that question is 3 to 5. Why 3 to 5? 1, they're easy to remember and easy to recall. You don't want to create a long, exhaustive list of core values because it's not going to be easy to remember, and it's going to be very difficult to recall when it's time to align your life with your values. So if I asked you right now, hey, what are your core values? Tell me what you stand for. You should be able to just rattle those off quickly. Oh, here's what I value. A, B, C, D. You want to know what I stand for? Let me tell you. 1, 2, 3, and 4. You want it to be easy to remember and easy to recall, which is going to make it easy for you to align your life, to align your decision-making with those values. 2, because these values represent the core pillars of your life. Everything that you value, everything that you stand for, should fall within those core pillars. So if you ask me right now, hey Ron, what are your core values? My answer, integrity, faith, family, and creativity. Those are the 4 pillars of my life. Those are the 4 pillars that hold up my life, my 4 core values. Everything else that I value, everything else that is important to me, falls within one of those 4 pillars. But those 4 pillars are easy to remember and easy to recall.
So when I'm making decisions, I can say, you know what? This aligns most with my integrity. This is staying true to me. I feel good about this, so I'm gonna go in that direction. Or, you know what? I'm gonna make this decision in my life because it aligns with family. It aligns with my creativity. It's gonna help me prioritize my family more often. When you can have something that's easy to remember and easy to recall, like I said, it makes living in alignment with your values and making decisions so much more easy because you're not trying to go down this exhaustive list and rambling off 35 different random words that you value or that are important to you. 3 to 5 core values. 3 to 5 core pillars. Everything else falls under that. Now, I do have a question for you. What's one moment in your life that might hold a clue to what you stand for? And the purpose of this question is to prompt that first exercise we talked about, reflecting on lived experiences. When do you feel the most alive? When do you feel the most like yourself? What moments upset you or bring you this deep feeling of anger? What are those lived experiences? Again, we're talking about those emotionally charged moments. So I want you to answer this question in the comments. And I want you to share as much or as little as you feel comfortable sharing. It doesn't have to be exhaustive. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to pour out your heart, but just share something. Again, the purpose is to get the ball rolling on that first exercise I shared with you. If you want to go deeper than this and you want help with this, my Clarity Focus newsletter is a great place for that. Every week, I share a single idea to help you align your life with what matters most to you, and I'll leave a link in the description below so you can join that if you want to.
Once you know what your core values are, once you have clarity on what you stand for, the next thing is putting it into action, right? Because what's the point of having core values if you don't honor them, right? So the next piece of this puzzle is learning how to stop living on autopilot. Autopilot is the most dangerous setting you can turn on in your life. And so if you want to hear my thoughts on how to build a life that you love, supported by work you enjoy, a life that aligns with your values that isn't just autopilot, check out this video here. Keep growing your journey, my friend. Keep learning, and remember to stay true to you. Peace.